So our next guest knows all about high-profile missing persons cases. Retired detective Jon Buehler investigated the Laci Peterson case out in California. He joins us live outside of the Pima County Sheriff's Office in Tucson. Good morning to you.
Morning, guys. Thanks for the invite.
Well, thanks for coming on. So the sheriff says they haven't narrowed down any suspect. What do you make of the gun owner saying that the FBI, the sheriff is saying they didn't do this? So I assume it's the FBI that's going to these gun stores in the area to try to see if they're showing them 3 pages of 6 to 8 names on each page and pictures of people asking, have they been in your store? Did they buy a gun that might fit in that holster?
Yeah, I think that's a logical conclusion to draw on what they're doing. They probably looked up prior offenders that have a criminal history that might include violence, and with that, they found the ones that had the same physical age and height and weight. And so they probably combine that into a list of potential suspects. So, of course, when they go to a gun shop that's required to be regulated by federal law, they can get access to the forms that are filled out whenever somebody purchases a handgun or a rifle legally, and look through those and see if they can find somebody that would match on that. Now, it could be completely independent from the sheriff's office. There may be a lot of communication between the FBI and the sheriff's office. Maybe there's a little bit less. Oftentimes, there's so many things to do in an investigation like this that the sheriff might not be able to keep track of everything, because not only does he have this case on his desk, things don't stop here in this county. Everything is still going on. They're still having other crimes. He's got staffing issues, budget issues, personnel issues, and things like that. So he's got a full day every day in addition to this.
Yeah, so, John, you know, we've talked a lot about genealogy. Obviously, it was used in Brian Kohlberger's. They went through a third party. They didn't go through, after they checked it through CODIS, they decided to go through that third party site. What do you make of that? And specifically, what DNA do you think is most important? The DNA in the house that they found, that they say is unknown, or on the glove that they found 2 miles away?
Well, you know, Lawrence, I kind of discount the glove thing because there's no way to really link that in unless you have a suspect identified from the foreign DNA that was left in the house. It could have been a glove from something completely unrelated. Could have been a maintenance worker or something like that. So without having any way to link the two, I'm not really a big fan of the glove out there. Of course, you're not going to ignore it because that's going to haunt you when you go to trial, when you catch the guy or guys who did this. But the foreign or the DNA that's in the house, that's really the big one. And we can only hope that family members, hopefully a big family, would have gone onto these sites and got their stuff registered and got all their information that they were interested in for recreational reasons or whatever. And now he becomes the victim of their little hobby. So that would be the thing that I'd be hoping for today.
What do you think about the sheriff coming out with his theory? He seems definitive on it, that they knew exactly who she was and what they were going to do when it's a kidnapping. I thought that was an interesting conclusion to come to, especially because they don't tell us a lot, from how they got into the house, what they found inside the house. All we saw is the blood on the outside.
Right, yeah, pretty tough for them to hide the blood on the outside. That's going to leak out. People are going to hear about that. But they're wise to keep the entry, whether it's forced or allowed, to be kept inside the investigation, because when you apprehend somebody that could be involved in this, that's one of the things you're looking for in your interview is, can they tell you what you already know? So keeping that inside the building here in front of me is a good idea. But when it comes to him saying that it's a burglary, that's a pretty logical conclusion, I would think, because it doesn't seem like it would be a forced entry at night. In this circumstance, she seems to have been targeted because it's just too random for her, of all people, to be picked out like this. So when he says, no, it's not a burglary, well, okay, probably not. The guy's got a full backpack. Usually you come to a burglary with an empty backpack and you leave with a full backpack. But the camera provides clues, but it doesn't provide enough. So targeted, yes, I would agree with that. I think all the viewers would probably see that also. Burglary, and not so much, probably there to take her. But it still remains a mystery, at least to us here, is 18 days into this, no real documentation that she's still okay, no documentation of a picture of her with something like a newspaper and a demand note for ransom and things like that. That's the one thing that's difficult. Now, when you look at cases like this, ransom kidnappings in America are fairly rare. There's child abduction for domestic violence situations and things like that and divorces. But an actual kidnapping for a ransom is a pretty rare thing in law enforcement. So this is one of those things that law enforcement doesn't deal with that often. So the FBI working with the county down here, good thing. Now we're just waiting for that break. And they might be sitting on it. There might be a break that they're not releasing that we don't know about.
So, John, in that interview with the sheriff, additional cameras were there at the home, and the sheriff says the video is currently in the hands of Google, so hopefully we'll get those. Now, until you have a suspect, what do you think about the sheriff dismissing the theories?
Well, his public dismissal of theories is, a tactic that maybe he's using, and maybe he's trying to dismiss those because he knows more than we do, obviously. And so I don't put too much in that. He's wise to not release much information on this, but it makes it really difficult to come up with some conclusions. I got a feeling they're scratching their head on some of this, but at the same time, they're also working on a ton of leads that have come in. And the problem with those leads is mixed in with them randomly, and you don't know where they are false tips, false leads put in there by pranksters and people that want to be a part of this, and so they have to sift through those. Now, the FBI has a pretty effective way to prioritize leads that come in. I would assume they're probably using that in this case, and they have experienced investigators that are able to prioritize those leads and give them out to the individual detectives that are on the ground working this thing. But when the sheriff says something, I take it with a grain of salt. He can't be totally upfront about everything because he's going to tip his hand, kind of like if he was playing poker.
All right, John, we appreciate you.
Thank you, John.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.